Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Whatever the I Want podcast, where our host Gaby gets to talk about whatever the I want. And today's episode is going to be about aging. So we are outside. It is cold. The weather's kind of been all over the place. Now that spring is starting to sprinkle itself in. We had a random snowfall. And today I woke up with the idea of doing an episode about aging. And so I wrote a poem for it. So if you would allow me to read it for you, it's called Aging. The marks on my body tell a story that you've never seen. You see stretch marks on my knees. I remember what it felt like to be the tallest person in 5th grade. You see stretch marks on my belly. I see the starter home my body created for my children. You see a burn mark on my leg. I think of the time I went on a 3-wheeler with my oldest brother and my leg accidentally got burnt from the tire. You see crow's feet. I see thousands of times I laughed so hard I almost peed my pants. You see smile line. I see the joy my family brings me. You see a gap in my teeth, but I see my mom's smile. It's the last piece of her I still have. You see extra skin. I see a new version of me that lost 100 pounds, something I'm proud of and did entirely on my own. See, bodies change throughout life, and that's the point. Life changes, and people change physically, mentally, and emotionally. I don't know what my life will look like tomorrow or how I will look in 20 years, but I do know that if I'm even given just one more day on this planet, I'll know not to care about how I look or worry about if I put on enough moisturizer, because life here is temporary. My body is simply a vessel for messages like these. And who cares if I look older, if wrinkles start to set in, because it simply shows the story of the beautiful life I've lived. My body may be different, but I've loved it all the same, learned to love it in every stage. Even though society has convinced me that I shouldn't, that I need thicker skin to not let the insults fill into my pores, that my weight on the scale defines who I get to date, or that as a woman my value is defined by my mate. Thankfully, I've learned that none of this is true, or what I would do to give my younger self a hug or two. For she did not know what I know now, that I determine my own value and my own worth. And it simply doesn't change as I age. If anything, it's taught me to love myself and everyone all the same. For it is a privilege to age, not many get the chance. So thank you, God, for giving me this body that can still dance. And dance I shall to the day that I die. For on my deathbed I will not worry or stress about a wrinkle or two. If anything, I'll be thinking about the time I could have had back if I stopped caring about all of this mess. For this game called life has all been a test to learn and block everyone out, to follow my dreams and path that God has set about. It doesn't matter how I look, all that matters is if I feel good. And I feel good, I feel great. Thank you, God, for giving me another day. And so I wrote that today, not only to challenge myself to write something, because I haven't really written anything somewhat poetic or of meaning in a while. It was mostly because I feel like as a woman, or even society today, puts a lot of pressure on everyone on not aging. And it's kind of crazy that when men age, you think, wow, how handsome, they've aged so gracefully. Wow. I feel like men are given a different outlook when it comes to how they age. And I have, heard one too many times people say, ella se mira bien acabada. Like, oh, she looks tired, and it's like, how often are not only women putting down women, but especially men or magazines putting down people for simply just aging. And it's like, it's a process that nothing can stop. So many people, I was listening to a podcast about this, and maybe that actually is what inspired all of this. It's been a few events that have transpired, but it was a podcast about aging and how people, are willing to drink whatever, eat whatever, even get blood from animals and put it on their face. It's just kind of really, guys, really, all of this to slow down something that was completely meant to happen. If God didn't want us to age, we just wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like there's just a lot of pressure on society on how we should look, on how, especially like moms, like think of any celebrity who's recently given birth to a baby. Like they're not given any grace. It's like, oh my gosh, this is how she looks 3 months postpartum. Or even moms who have had, babies that are now toddlers, people will look at them and be like, oh, she let herself go after having the baby. And it's like, that's not, why are you even talking about somebody else's body and how they look? I feel like aging is completely natural. It is something that none of us can help or can control. And sure, if you want to wear moisturizer and under eye cream and you want to somewhat slow down the process, that's fine. But you're slowing it down, you're not stopping it. And I think that we should learn to embrace aging because it is something that is entirely natural. It is something that we all go through. I remember my parents telling me, like one day you're going to blink and you're going to be old. And it's like, I am, I feel like I blinked and here I am about to turn 28. My birthday is next week. And I can't help, well, I guess when this episode releases, it's happening now. But I mean, it's Sunday anyways. I'm filming the day before. Oops, y'all. It happened. I waited till the last minute. But again, like I'm not going to sit here and force myself to record or film something when I don't feel ready to do it. So I allow for inspiration to hit me, and I feel like it did. And here I am outside in 40, I think it was 47-degree weather, hanging out with y'all. I just think I would like to see more of us encouraging people to not feel the need to wear so much makeup or to get Botox or fillers and all these things when honestly a lot of people's bodies are rejecting these things. Even like breast implants, like a lot of people's bodies reject it. And there's a big reason why, because it's not meant to be there. And so I recently had a cousin have a baby, and, she was showing us her postpartum belly. And what a beautiful thing it has been to watch her grow a baby and to give birth and to, see her body change and evolve. And I can't imagine what it's like to actually be in those shoes. But I mean, so many people describe motherhood as so beautiful, yet it is society that tells them, like, yeah, that's cool that you got to grow a baby inside of you, but at the same time, you need to look like you did whenever you were 18 years old. Like, why do you not have a six-pack of abs and have super long, thick hair? Little did I know that pregnancy can cause a lot of hair loss. I've learned a lot through my cousin's pregnancy, and it's just like, wow, there's just so much, just a huge lack of information when it comes to what a pregnancy fully entails along with motherhood. It's not that moms don't, or parents in general, don't want to be taking care of themselves. It's just that you now have a whole other person whose life that you're responsible for. So the last thing on your mind might be to, oh, I got to go to the gym. Maybe your baby has a cold and that is just more of a priority to you. And I think that's perfectly fine. It is perfectly fine to get into the rhythm of being a parent and to fully enjoy that and embrace that. I think obviously it's important to still have a hold of who you are. If you loved to bake before becoming a parent, I hope you still do love to bake. I think that as we age, we shouldn't lose parts of ourselves. And I know that I was primarily focusing on pregnancy just now. I just feel like there's a lot of weight that goes into women, and it typically stems from like, this is how I looked before I had kids and this is how I look like after I have kids. And so I'm just speaking from a woman's perspective, not a mom's perspective. I have a cat and a dog. I did not give birth to them, although I will fully claim that I entirely gave birth to them. it can obviously, I think pregnancy is just like the most obvious change in somebody's life that, like physically happens. But, I saw a picture of somebody in my family and I'm like, wow, how beautiful. And, they've passed. And I didn't look at this person's picture and think, wow, they look old. I thought, wow, how beautiful. Like, look at their smile. Look at how happy they were. Look at how beautiful this picture is. I didn't think at all, like, oh, wow, this person has wrinkles. Oh, wow, this person looks old. Oh, wow, this person has gray hair. I didn't think that for 1 minute. And I've, started graying and I have fully embraced it. I follow some people on TikTok that have fully embraced their grays and they look fabulous. And I think that obviously if you want to dye your hair, dye your hair. I'm not saying to completely change who you are if that's what your preference is. I'm just saying that next time that you go in for Botox or that you're considering some type of procedure, ask yourself, are you doing it because you think society will accept you more? You doing it because a friend is doing it? Versus are you doing it because it will genuinely make you happy? And that's just a food for thought. I think aging is a privilege. I've gotten to watch my parents age, and I swear every single time I go home, I get so emotional because, you can see such a drastic difference whenever you've gone months without seeing them, or even the kids. You go home and you're like, wow, you're inches taller, you have really long hair now, or, maybe you have these new hobbies because whenever you age, it's not just you change physically, you change a lot mentally and emotionally, and you become wiser. And I think that that's also really cool. You have more life under your belt, more experience. And so I think now with this birthday coming around, I just feel very privileged I'm not sure if I'm going to be giving my 28th birthday, but if I am, or even just standing here today, sitting here today, I feel very privileged to reach nearly 28 years of life. And yeah, my skin has changed. I don't look the same way that I did when I was 18. And honestly, I'm grateful for who I was then. And I feel for that younger version of me. But I am so happy and so confident in who I am now. And I just wish younger me didn't focus so much on what people thought about her. And that's ultimately what life is about. It's not caring what anybody else thinks. It's about following your heart and doing what feels right for you and treating people with kindness and spreading love. And I think, when people say, like, to older people, like, oh, you have a young, like, vibe, or, like a young aura. I think that that's a part of, like, not allowing for your inner child to leave you, and also a part of just having fun. You don't have to be old and boring. I feel like a lot of people choose to have that life. I refuse to have that life. I will not be old and boring. Seeing my parents, I've seen them do like water rafting in Costa Rica, like off of a freaking cliff with like rocks and water in their 40s and 50s. I've seen them zip line. And, now my parents are approaching their later 50s, and I saw my mom holding snakes whenever we were in Mexico City and like carrying reptiles. And I think that that's what keeps people young. It's still like being adventurous and being curious about life. It's what makes you old, quote unquote, is like cooping yourself up, allowing for you to stop having fun. Just because you're old doesn't mean you have to be boring. And so what? I don't know why the word old has a negative connotation to it. I'm older. I wouldn't describe myself as old yet, but maybe to my nieces and nephews I would be. But overall, I'm just grateful to be here. And, if you do have any insecurities about how your face or body has changed as you've aged, just know that it's completely normal. It's natural. And, I never pictured myself to be here at nearly 28 years of life. I never thought what my life would be like at this age. But damn, I'm happy to be here. So it's Aries season, y'all. A lot of fire. Do something this week that makes you feel good. And I really challenge you to look inside the mirror and to tell yourself that you love yourself despite what society or the internet tells you that you should feel. And I love you all. Hope you have a fantastic day. And I'll catch you in the next one.